So let's take a look at Garrett Blatnik's throw with the 20-pound sheaf at 2019 Amateur World Championships in Minnesota. So this was a 35-foot 6-inch throw with a 20-pound bag, and that's not even his PR. He's thrown 36. He threw it the same year at Estes Park, the 20-pound bag, 36 feet. Just some absolutely massive throws from this guy, and I want to go into some of the reasons why. Garrett has some physical gifts for sure, and he's very strong, comes from a powerlifting background. He's a big boy, 6'3", pushes 300 pounds, but it's not just being that. It's like it is with a lot of the top pros and a lot of top AMs. They can be big and strong and athletic, but it's not just that. It's that they've learned how to leverage it with their technique. So let's look at some things that Garrett does here that are going to be a little off what you consider the standard from what a lot of us are used to throwing in the Highland Games when we throw sheaf, or what you're used to seeing. So he starts with this very bent over posture. This is to kind of set himself up for where he's going to be in the bottom of the sheaf. So there is a common truism that if you're a right-handed thrower, that sheaf really happens on your right side here. The power side, your strong side, is where it's going to happen. If you're left-handed, it'd be the other side, obviously, whichever side you're throwing from. But Garrett is going to utilize something that was kind of brought into vogue called the reach and rip. So let's look here real quick why we call it that. Reach. There's a long reach where he's getting a big distance here. We'll get back to that with kind of his physicality too. And then you're just ripping it out from that spot to go straight up right there. So this reach and rip thing was kind of brought into vogue by former pro and multiple Masters World Champion Mike Dickens. He's the first one, I believe, called it that. But this technique takes out something that has traditionally happened in the sheaf, where athletes would get to this last swing, and instead of doing what Garrett's doing here, they would let the bag rise up on this side, and they would rise with it, and then they would drive it down and back up. And you'd kind of see a check mark shape happen right there. So they would try to use gravity on this side to drive the bag down and then rise up with hip extension and pull to get this thing going up. So what the reach and rip technique does is it takes out that window. It takes out any uncertainty that you might have about missing that window, about driving down and hitting the wrong timing or hitting the wrong spot. So Garrett is utilizing the tools that he has, his very high level of strength, and his very good wingspan. You notice Garrett's got a very long wingspan here, longer than average for sure. I'd be interested to see what the actual numbers are on his reach there. But in having that, look how far out he's able to get here. Now, there is something cool that Garrett does, which is a little bit different from a very classic reach and rip, like Michael Dickens uses, like I myself use, in that Garrett's able to get a little bit of gravity on his side still. He's kind of getting the best of both worlds. So look at this big final prep swing. Look at the height of the bag right there. He's getting this thing high while he's maintaining that kind of bent over posture. You know, legs are planted well, but he's bent over at the waist a little bit so he can load his hips. But he's got this bag high, and then he lets this thing, if you watch full speed, fall. He lets this thing fall, but he directs it, since he's holding the fork, and he allows that momentum to let the bag go out to the right. All good. You want to get as far on the right as you can, but in general, with a reach and rip style, you're also trying to reach low. You're trying to hit your low point over here and hit it as far out to the strong side as you can, so you have a long time to pull it. Garrett is doing something tricky here in that when he lets it fall, watch, kicks up. He gets a really nice little kick up of that bag because he's utilized this momentum falling from up here. He captures that momentum, turns it into energy that he stores for a little rotation right there. So he gets that kick up. So not only is he using that incredible wingspan to reach out and get that bag far over there, and the further over it gets, the more time you get to apply force going this way. The more time he gets to apply that high level of strength and that body mass that he has to it, he has more time with that long wingspan and that great reach that he makes. But also, because of that little whip that he gets right there, that little flicker up of the bag, he gets a little bit of gravity on his side. So when he starts to extend, the bag falls to a low point right there. And now he's cooking. You know, he's begun to extend the hips. He's begun to stand up. He's begun to pull with the top hand, with the left hand. And he's got a good right hand push. And this is something that comes instinctively to some throwers, but doesn't come. Sometimes it just takes, it's effortful for other people, or some people never have it and they're all pull. But Garrett's always kind of had this push with the right hand. You can see that's really driving. That's the motor. You can see like the force pushes down into that fork. You can see the bag react. That force coming through there along with the pull here, that bag reacts and starts moving in the direction he needs it to move along with that extension. So right here, feet stay planted in the ground. There's no extracurricular foot movement. There's no knee collapse. There's no knee bowing out. He keeps his feet connected to the ground as if he's lifting a barbell. That's so important, and he does it so well. He begins to stand, captures hip extension. This is where you get the most speed right here because you got the arms pulling, you have the traps pulling up to the ears, and you have the hips and knees extending at the same time. Core to extremity, right? If you extend those hips violently, you're holding something. If you do it properly and you're patient, you stay long like Garrett does here, it's going to transfer to the extremities and it's going to transfer out to that fork into the bag. And look at that. I bet that fork was singing in his hand because he took all the pressure, all the tension from it right into that bag. And he followed it with his eyes and he turned back. So many sheaf throwers are told, don't watch the bag, don't turn your shoulders. And that fixes some early problems for some people where they look too soon or they turn too soon because they're unsure. But when you have the pull right, when you have it good, this is a follow-through, just like there is in any other sports movement. There's a follow-through. Great line on that, too. Almost straight up and down, like he didn't have a big parabola on it. Just a great pull. All the energy's going up. All the energy's going vertical. You heard his brother, Justin Blatnik, who's running the camera, yell vertical as a cue right before. And that's excellent because that's what you should be thinking. That's what your motion should be going towards. But see, he follows it. It's a follow-through. Everybody thinks a lot of times there needs to be this hard block right here where you stop the fork and your body and then this thing will fly off. Yeah, it'll fly, but that block already happened. Watch Garrett. Watch. He's planning to follow through the whole time. But boom! That's a block, y'all. That's blocking right there. So continue with it. Follow through. You know, when a major league pitcher throws a fastball, they don't just stop as soon as the ball leaves their hand. Sure, it might continue to travel, but you can get a lot more from the intention that comes from following through. The intention before the release, knowing that you're going to continue through this entire. In order to block and stop right there, throwers have to decelerate. That's the nature of the beast. To reach a stop, you have to decelerate. You can't stop all at once. So you're decelerating the bag by doing that. Now, there have been some great throwers that have done that, for sure. But for a lot of throwers, it would behoove them to think of following through. So great vertical right there. Now, I do want to do one more thing with this video. I want to appreciate the celebration by Garrett's brother, Justin, holding the camera. That has got to get you hyped right there. That's what you want out of your brother watching you throw a winning sheaf toss that's gigantic at an amateur world championship. That's the minimum amount of celebration. I absolutely love that. But look, Garrett brings a ton of energy to the games, man, and he definitely brings a lot of intensity to the sheaf throw, and I'm interested to see what he's going to do as he goes to the next level because I think what he's doing here is unique. You can really write it off as big, strong power lifter just pulls the bag without any technique, but you'd be totally wrong if you just look at what he's doing on this side. Look again at that whip. The whip of that bag and then the push. Look at the reaction of the bag. See that bag just collapse. Like, I absolutely love that. I love that reaction of the bag. Boom, right there. The way the bag kind of collapses in where the fork is poking it. And then from that point on, the bag is just going for a ride. See that right hand push all the way through. So there's a lot of technical stuff happening here. There's a lot of reps. There's a lot of time put into this. And I'm interested to see more big sheaf throws from Garrett.